Good morning, everybody. Morning and afternoon, and whatever time zone you're in. Welcome. Today I have a plan, but what I might do is change my plan and do the teaching content piece when everyone can be on the call. But let's first check in and see what's happening out there with you all, and then we'll go from there to see what's happening. So Alex, how about you go? What's cooking for you? Oh, can't hear you.
Sorry, muted myself. Yeah, so I've just kind of been working on getting some initial proposals together, which I know you said you have some references in the resource center, but I talked to the one company about the small group assessment and possibly using it with them, and they recommended I just reach out directly to their HR manager with a proposal. So I've kind of actually been waiting for this call today before I do that.
Okay.
And then I do have an individual client that I'm doing the IVA with, so I'm actually planning on sending that to her today. And looking at I've proposed adding the IVAs to a seminar I'm doing for the Credit Union Association in Baltimore. The next seminar that I do with them, I'm in the middle of one right now. So I'm waiting to hear back from them on that. So just trying to create more opportunities to be doing this work. I am going to do the personal values assessments in a seminar that I have on September 12th to just introduce people to the concept of integrating values into the workplace. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so since I didn't give them notice in advance to pay for the IVA, so I just thought I'd do the free PVA to continue at least trying to introduce the work.
Right, good. Good. Okay. That sounds great. And we can talk about the proposal, you bet.
Awesome.
How about you, Tiz? What's cooking for you?
Okay, since course I debriefed a PVA with a young person. That one's still sort of an open book. Very interesting. Posted that particular PVA on the CTT community site. Got a little bit of feedback that totally, I think my reason for posting it on the site wasn't so much for, hey, let's talk about something. It really was a curious PVA. It was a young person, and to see that and to hear some of the words that went behind it really caused me to think, you know what? I'll just blurt it out. A little tiny bit of disconnection with reality. But anyway, that will be an ongoing conversation. I also debriefed 2 IVAs. That was in the context of the couple. I think I mentioned that last time.
Yeah.
And what I've done with that is sort of done it in 2 parts. With one part, the first part that's done is basically doing it very individual, and they are off doing some deeper work themselves about themselves, and then phase 2 will be coming together as a couple, but with more clarity about themselves. So they're kind of over the moon about that, and so that was a real pleasure to do. I have I've started drafting I think I'm doing this the right way. I've started drafting my script for my little video, and that will allow me to leverage into that lunch and learn type thing that I want to create as well. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Good. Okay. Got lots of little bits cooking. How about you, Lisa? How are you doing?
Hi guys, sorry I was late. I was in a meeting. I'm good. I'm sorry. What are you talking about? What?
We're just doing a quick check-in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You know, what's up? What's new? What's good? How, are you jumping into any of the tools, or what's happening with you?
It's just been busy here, and I'm going on vacation next week, so I've been trying to catch up with things. And I wrote a chapter to submit for one of Jack's books on the success principles. So I've been just trying to get that finished up so I can turn that in before I go away. But no, I haven't done much work with this, but I thought I'd bring all my stuff because we're going to a lake and there's no service. So at least I have something that I could read or work on. I'm not used to being, without internet or just being quiet for a week. So.
Oh, wow. That might be good. There's someone in the room the BTS room whose kids were in the most recent shooting.
Really?
Yeah, 2 of her teenagers, I think. What was there one in Florida or what?
Yeah, in Parkland, Florida. There's one in Parkland in Texas.
Parkland shootings, yeah.
Oh.
So I'd mentioned that you have done your doctoral work in this area and you're a principal, and would I be able to introduce that? Would she be interested in just ever learning about your work and what you've done? And they're really in the healing process right now, but she strikes me as someone who might take this up as some meaningful cause, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, she'd be interested in connecting with you if you're okay with me.
Oh, I would love that. Thank you.
Okay. So that's pretty heavy in the room. That's for sure.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah. So, okay, Mammy, how about you? What's cooking with you?
Hi, my internet is not good, so I'm trying to stay connected by being off camera. I'm
Perfect.
sorry.
Yeah, nope, that's what I figured.
Yes. So what I've done is to speak with a couple of people. Actually, I'm just running.
Oh, we lost her.
One meeting I had with training sessions. He has quite a cloud team in Ghana. So what I'm trying to do is to get me into his sessions to get some of the clients first for the
You're kind of cutting in and out, but it sounds like you're. Did I get it right that you were partnering up with someone to get this work into his training, or did I mishear that? Oh, internet. Okay. I think we lost her. One soul lost. So I'll just go through a few things, and then there was a few things I do want to share. And what I was also thinking is, because Catherine's in the room here, and yeah, we lost a soul. I thought that might happen, and Kobe may or may not be on the call. I was thinking I'd like to book another 3-hour session with this group to just debrief and go over some things together as a group at a block of time when everyone can be together. We do have one more sort of formal call, but I think I'd like to do a little bit more. So I will accommodate schedules the best we can, but I'd like to add a few bits and do some more review, that kind of thing. Feeling like
sorry, I'm back. I dropped off suddenly.
Yeah. So can you say what you said again? What's cooking for you?
Yes, so I was saying that I'm trying to get a couple of the training consultants to get into the executive teams for their training clients so that I could introduce the concept. But Kathleen and I are saving our 2 SGAs, the complementary ones, to use it in the
we keep missing the punchline.
By mentioning that we are in quite a turmoil. Yes, my line went off again, I suppose.
Yeah. Okay, so what I'm going to just, while you're here, in case you decide that you're not able to stay on the call because of the connection, I'm going to send out a few options to everyone to sort of click on what's the best time, because I do want to have another solid 3-ish hours with this group. Just to do a debrief, some more debriefing of surveys and some helping with pitches, that kind of thing. Just, I think I'd like to add a little more content training to this online piece. So I'll send some options for calls, and I'm sure nobody would say that that's crappy, that I'm giving more time. So I'm sure that we will find a way to make it work. Yeah.
We are very grateful, surely.
Thank
you.
Yes, thank you for that.
It's our like, I want to. This is an experiment in a way, but I think there needs to be more time. So I was talking to Carson about saying we need to pop out another sort of training session, and these are to debrief. So I have a few things to share with you today, a couple of icebreakers that I use, and and a bit on core values. But I think what I might do is save the core values piece when we can interact as a group and do some work on it together with a case study. So I think I'd like that to be more of a teaching content piece than today, that everyone can experience it. Does that work for everybody? Okay, so what I'm going to do is, and we are being recorded, and it might be a boring recording to rewatch for Catherine and Kobe, but that's okay. There are a few little icebreaker things. I've shared one with you already, I believe, the personal histories, but I'm going to share my screen and show you some of the stuff that I do when I talk to a group. I do want to debrief a little bit, and Catherine could probably also at some point give her perceptions of the session that I did. It was the first time ever we did a PVA with 400 people in the room, and overall it went very well. But some unintended things that happened is it triggered a lot of people. The RIM facilitators, the people who do sort of outside of the room therapy, Mammy, there's people in the room who leave because it's too much, and we have assistants who work with them, process them, and get them back in the room. So what triggered people was the level 1, safety, health, security. And it's interesting how that was such a trigger, and we were trying to figure out why. Dr. Deb and I were trying to figure out why. And my theory is because most of the time I do PVAs en masse, it's with people in a workplace setting, so they're coming in with a different mindset. And what happened was Jack had spent a day and a half unraveling people, so they were raw and really looking at their lives, but also they came in for different reasons than people in a corporate environment. So there was a lot of people who got triggered by me talking about level 1. That was the main conversation because it's a foundation for everything. So it was a learning for me. And what that led me to think about is, I think I shared with you, we just announced the advanced training yesterday. So that's pretty cool. There's a lot of interest, and a lot of the work is going to be doing IVA work. And I think that we'll have some additional support in the room, like probably the RIM group of people, but additional support in the room, because what I learned most is there people in an open training room are coming in from a different perspective. They're coming in wanting to be opened up. So they were more raw, and it impacted in a way that I was unexpected. It was very good, very positive, but really rocked their world on level 1. So that was a takeaway and a learning. I don't know how many of you are thinking to use this kind of work in sort of an open forum setting, like open workshop. But certainly when you're taking people deep for a day and a half, just note to self, they're raw. And the values work, it just reminded me how deep it is in such a simple way. It's such a simple way, but it is friggin' deep. So the other thing that showed up in the room was with, and I don't know if the participants noticed, but in one-on-one debriefs is when Jack did keeping your agreements. I don't know if any of you have been in the room when he does, what did you keep your agreement? Some people felt very, the word violated was used because they were really thinking a lot about their values and their value of integrity and their value of commitment. And then they were challenged on it by the whole exercise. And all I did was side talk, but you made an agreement. So it really challenged people in an interesting way. And Jack was able to link values to it. And so there's lots of cool things coming out of it, I guess. I'm still processing it to see where it's going to land, but it was very, very well received. Facilitating it, I'll change what I did for that large of a group, because I think if I get this keynote in the HR conference in April, because there's 1,000 people, we'll have to think of a different way to facilitate the seeing of the model. But it went well and was well received by a different target group of people. I just want you to know that the model landed. It landed. And maybe what I could do on a call with everybody is sort of go through the process I used to unpack it, to share, because I think it would apply in a small group or a large group. But I'm going to make a note of that. And so I'll be prepared to share what I did. But If I don't make a note, I'll forget I said it. But there's some reflection and some feedback I got from people that can make it more user-friendly with a large group. I'm not suggesting that you're all going to go out there and have 400 people in the room, but it's good to know what worked and what could be better. Okay, so I'm happy to share that. Do you have any questions? I think I was rambling a bit.
I do, Kathleen. I didn't quite wrap my head around the second learning, the keeping agreements and the being challenged.
Okay. So you know how, Mammy, I'll give you a quick, I don't know if you've seen it on the online program or not, but what Jack does on the first day is people sign agreements of how they're going to behave or play together for the next week. And then on day 3, always on Wednesday, he then has this thing called broken agreements. And so he has anyone who's broken agreement, you need to stand up. So they stand up, and then he processes people and he says, what did you make more important than keeping your agreement? Was it for comfort, rebellion, or recognition? So there's 3, recognition isn't totally the right word, but there's 3 reasons why we break our agreements. One is basically because we want approval. So we side talk because we want approval. Rebellion, we don't like people telling us what to do. And so he processes people. And what happened is, because the night before we went kind of late till 6:30 at night, and we were talking about values. When he processes people in front of others, they felt, there was 2 people actually who have left the training because of it, for many other reasons. And keep this in this call. It was a teaching moment. They felt violated because they felt very clear that their value of integrity was important, but they had things that were pressing as to why they broke an agreement. So they were tying in the values piece with the broken agreements piece. And I'm still processing it in my own mind how that clashed, Tiz. But it was a good clash. But the way it was framed was interesting, how people were framing it up as, you're suggesting I didn't live up to my values. So they really integrated the work, but felt challenged. And the whole point of that exercise is to say to people, from the Jack perspective, is to say to people, how many things do you agree to do that you're not really going to do? And how many agreements do you make that you're not going to follow through on? So I can see how we can tie that in more effectively with values alignment and that kind of thing. But what was remarkable, I guess, my point, and it's raw because I'm processing it, was how they felt that their values were questioned. So the conversation, my point is, the conversation really landed. The values conversation landed hard.
Mm-hmm. It's like that perception, it's projection thing, right? Where if their values were challenged, they reacted to that because perhaps, dare I say, they actually were in conflict with their own values, and they weren't willing to wrap their head around accepting that. And so what I think I hear you saying is, you want to process this to understand how you want to handle that when that comes up, because we're so amazing at convincing ourselves of certain things, and then when it gets smacked in our face, we might blow up and leave.
Real cool teachable moment. But here's the thing: participants didn't know that was going on, right? Because it's people who come out and talk about it. But when there's a theme in the people who are bolting, that's interesting. And a lot of the themes were about values and how they landed, and how recognizing in the one keeping your agreements piece, but also the foundational safety and security, because people's foundation is rocked right now globally. Like, we're in flux. So I'm going to debrief it a little bit more with Jack because I think there's something here. It was quite remarkable. But the headline here for you all is the work landed really well. People were super confused. And I said to them, I'm going to go through this 3 times because you're going to be confused. Some of you are going to get frustrated. Some of you are going to get bored and say, get on with it. But trust me, I've done this enough to know that I need to go through this 3 times. So I will share with you on a call how I did that. going through it 3 times. I'll share my slide deck with you and show you. So that was that. It was quite exciting. But now I'm going to show you a couple of things that I use oh, wait a second. Sorry. I have to, how do I do this? I think I need to share my screen. Screen. Okay. And I'll send you these are not great, beautiful slides, but they'll get the point, and you'll be able to, why is it doing presenter view? Just a second. I need for it to do that. Slideshow. There we go. Okay, so I'll send you these slides, and these are the Barrett slides. I don't know if Carson has redone these. If he has, we'll send you the good ones. We'll put them up on the community. But there's a couple of things, and I can't remember if I shared this one or if we did this one together. But this one is Patrick Lencioni's work, and this is a great way to connect a small or a large group. But you put people in groups of 5, and they're to answer these questions. Where did you grow up? How many children in your family? What was the most difficult or important challenge in your childhood? Those are the Lencioni questions. And what I've added to that is, what difference has that made in your life, your work, or your leadership, depending on what the frame of the workshop is. And my purpose of this is they get about 90 seconds in the circle, and it's a real good connecting exercise. People feel like there's inclusion in the room without having to have everyone stand up and introduce themselves. If you have 20 people who are introducing themselves to the group, that takes at least 40 minutes. It'll kill your check-in and people get bored. But this is a way for people to feel heard and that they get connected. You obviously always give an example of your own. You answer the questions, you model it. But what I find with this one is, when I would stop at what's the most difficult or important challenge in your childhood, what I always say is, you don't have to go deep if you don't want to go deep. It's okay. But just, what was something that stood out for you? But I'm all about connecting the dots. So, which is why I add this question is, well, so what? Who cares? Like, what difference has that made in your life? And when this models a little bit after when you unpack the LDR, when the first interview, you ask people about their life and their leadership history, and you're trying to see how dots are connected. This one I find get people to start to think about how the dots in their lives are connected. How what happened when they were a teenager impacts today, and that there's a thread, a commonality they can find through it. So what the example I often use is, I grew up in Seattle, Washington. We moved to Canada when I was 11, when my parents got divorced. I'm number 5 of 6 children, and one of the most difficult or important challenges in my childhood was really about fitting in. And I felt like I didn't fit in. So I remember in 7th grade, I tried out for the basketball team, and my very best friend made the team and I didn't make the team. So what I did is, I asked the coach if I could practice with him every day and try out for the team the next year. And he said that I could. So I practiced for the team, and then I made the team the next year. And how that shows up in my life today is that I don't quit. I'm very diligent about my learning. I'm still very, very shy and have a difficult time meeting new people. But when I put myself out there, I notice that if I work hard enough, I can fit in. So I frame whatever it is for the session. Does that make sense? If it's a leadership session, I show how it showed up in my leadership. If it's an open workshop with people just coming in to look at their life, I talk about what it was, how I frame it up in a persistence story. But I find this to be a great icebreaker, so that each person goes around, and that takes about 10 minutes altogether, setting it up, having them do it. And if I have a large group, sometimes I'll have them stand up and then have them stand up and pair up with another person and answer the questions. So they're mixed outside of the group of 5. And I'll have them do that 2 or 3 times so they meet more people, depending on how much time I have for an opening exercise. Because what I want to do is have as many people connect with each other as possible. And I find that this one is very non-threatening. an example of this one, how powerful it is one company I work with. These guys have been working together for up to 30 years. It's a government agency, and some of them have known each other for 30 years. And one guy said, the most important or difficult challenge in my childhood was my whole family was killed in a car accident. And nobody knew that about him. And the sort of the teaching point of this is we don't take the time to get to know each other personally because we want to keep this professional facade at work. But building sort of values-driven leaders or a consciously designed values-driven culture, we need to take the whole person. So I tie it into how important it is to take the time to get to know people, because they understood his behavior more after that, because he wanted to be included in everything. Well, he doesn't have a family, and they didn't know it. And they felt like a bunch of buttheads, honestly, because they didn't know this about a person that they worked with for so many years, that he had no family. He had a wife, but growing up family. Okay. So this is a great icebreaker. It sets the tone. It gets people talking very quickly. It can go fast, or you can have people again form partners and meet more people depending on how much time you have. That's a good one. The next one, this one is in your, Get Connected. And I love this one when I want to demonstrate the tree metaphor. So I actually have this as a question in the workbook, and I'll say, think of a moment, turn to page whatever, and think of a moment when you were part of a dream team. And it's really, let's see if I have the next question here. I don't know if I do. Yeah. I said, when everything was clicking, everything was going well, and then what made it a dream team? So I have them write that down, and I say, what made it a dream team? So they just sort of are beginning to think about what it's some good work experiences. And then what I do is I take a piece of paper, a flip chart, and I draw a line down the middle, as you'll see here. And I ask people for words or phrases, and I start to write them down on the paper, and it looks a lot like this. So some words I put below the line and some I put above the line. And how I make the distinction is if it's something that is intangible, you can't see it, touch it, or taste it, it goes below the line, because that's the roots of the tree. That's the spirit, that's the emotion, that's the intangibles. And then the things that you can see are like, oh, we had a strategic plan, we had a clear vision, we had a budget, we knew what our roles were, we celebrated milestones, we had regular meetings, clear goals. And I just write it like this. I don't tell them what I'm doing. And then when I debrief it, this is the example you have in your book in Get Connected. But when I debrief it, I talk about the roots of the tree and how below the surface, there's usually, if you look at this slide, I say, look at this slide, or the writing, oftentimes there's more words below than above, because there's more happening that we can't see that makes the above possible. So I talk about the roots of the trees and what the roots are, the habits, attitudes, traditions. This should feel very familiar to you. And the bounty above is the strategy, the goals, the plans. It's the rational. You have to connect the rational, the reason and logic with the roots, the spirit, emotion. We need both. And but I really talk about how what was under the ground was much more important, and it really contributed to what's above ground. So this is a good exercise to prime the pump for people to begin to talk about values. And then what I do after this one is I do that, identify your top 3 values, beliefs, and behaviors. So if I really want to hit the conversation about values, that's the way I do it. I do Patrick Lencioni, and then I do this, and then I have them identify values, beliefs, and behaviors. I might do a few things in the middle, but that's really the progression. You know what exercise I'm talking about when I say that? When you pick 3 values, describe the beliefs around the value and the behavior. You did that on day 1. So that's, yeah, you know what I'm talking about, most of you?
Yes, day 1,
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So those are a couple of ways to connect the group in such a way to set the context for values conversations. And these work every time with every, I'm trying to get out of this. with every group I work with, those two icebreakers work every time. Just want to I don't know how to unshare my screen. It's weird. Anyway, I guess I can't. I don't know how to unshare my screen. I need Carson. Okay, so those are some icebreakers that I use to set the tone. Do you have any questions or comments on those? Can you see how those are useful, or would you like any more information on how to facilitate those?
Yeah, can I ask a question, Kathleen?
Yeah.
So if you start out in a seminar with either icebreaker,
Mm-hmm.
and you move into talking about the values. Now you said, would you do an icebreaker and the 3 values and behaviors and how they flesh out? You'll do both of those.
Yeah.
Does the core motivation exercise, I'm curious where you would put that in. I loved that one, and I was thinking, especially in working with employees or professionally, how that would apply. I'm curious where you fit that in.
So I'm trying to think of where I put that in a workshop. I like to have them identify. I'll put an outline together for you, because I don't think it's up there. I like them to identify a challenge also in the beginning. And I don't always do the core motivation, Alex. It depends how much time I have. But what I always do, the things that I consistently always do are the Lencioni, the above below, the dream team it's called, and values, beliefs, and behaviors. If I'm going to do IVAs, if I have the time, because that has them begin to talk about beliefs around a value, and that helps them have dialogue when they look at their IVA or PVA, whatever it is that you're doing. Keeping in mind, I have people for more than a day. But if you're just focusing on the values content, you could put in the core motivation exercise. I don't use it as often because I'd rather have them solve a problem. I'd rather have them identify a leadership challenge, a current challenge, and then take their learning for the day and have an action plan out of that. Does that make sense?
It does, yes.
Yeah.
So, sorry, and maybe this is a silly question.
No,
if
never.
If you have either a half a day or a full day with a group,
Mm-hmm.
you do the dream team icebreaker first and the values, beliefs, and behaviors. Is it then that you go into the 7 levels of personal consciousness and explain, or do you do that right up front? No, you go in.
I do it after. I do it after. You couldn't do all 3 of those in a half day. I don't know. You could unpack a PVA. You could do depending on the context of your group. Mine are all leadership groups, and I want them to look at what it's like to be on a team. Like that's sort of my main focus. But depending on what your group is, I don't think you would have enough time to really do a solid PVA and 7 levels overview and the values, beliefs, and behaviors if you only had a half a day. So I would leave values, beliefs, and behaviors out, and I would jump into the PVA. So I have to always remember that I always get more time with people, like minimally a day. But, I'm lying to you because I only had 3.5 hours with Jack, but I did a whole different shtick with Jack because it wasn't I did different things. But if I'm setting a tone to talk about building a consciously designed values-driven culture or a leadership program, a values-based leadership program, I do the personal histories. I do it all the time anyway. I think Jack even does it in Train the Trainer now. I think it's one of the things that we do. I don't know if you remember that, but we don't, it's not in the online, but we do it in the training. I'm pretty sure we do. But that one it sets the tone for openness. The dream team is if I have people who are wanting to work together. In a perfect world, I do personal histories. I have them identify an issue or a challenge that they want to work on for the day or the context of the workshop. I then do the dream team. So we're plugging into what makes a team work, what makes life work. And then I'll do values, beliefs, and behaviors, and then the survey. and then an action plan. That's a full day. That's a solid full day.
Okay.
Okay.
And you'll do that with IBAs? I'll
do it with IBAs. You can pull a full day out of a PVA, but here's the thing: the PVA wasn't designed. That's not the real purpose of the PVA. It's really to get people into using the other tools. So I encourage you to use the other tools, but the PVA is useful because it's free. So what happened with CTT with BTS, we had 460 people complete the survey. I don't know how we had more surveys completed than people in the room, but whatever. And tremendous interest in the work. So we use the PVA, but these people will then get IVAs or come to a CTT certification. So it's really about priming the pump and getting people interested in values.
So can I just reiterate, make sure I understand it? So you said you would do the personal history first.
Yeah.
And you would identify a challenge that the group wanted to work on.
Yeah.
For the day in the workshop.
No, individual challenge, personal.
Oh, an individual challenge?
Okay. Yeah. You don't have time in a one day to have a team solve a problem together.
Okay. So personal challenge. Mm-hmm. And then you would do the dream team activity.
Yeah.
And then describe 3 values. Like you would talk, like we did, what are the values? Describe what it looks like. What can you agree to? And then you would go into the 7 values of leadership consciousness.
I do the 7 levels of consciousness.
Okay.
If I only have one day with them.
Oh, 7 levels of, okay.
And a PVA or the IVA. And then I wrap it with an action plan.
And they would do their own IVAs in their group like we did. You would show them how to do it.
Handout? Yeah, I use that. Okay. Yeah. If it's an IVA, because that's an unpacking for an IVA.
Okay.
Okay, and Mammy has a question because the internet's unstable. If I want to get this work as a pitch, get a sign off, can I set up a PVA prior to the session and get the icebreakers? I'm hoping the leadership will get the need to get the IVAs and SGAs. Okay, I find the PVA primes the pump, if I understand your question correctly, so I'm going to read it again for you all because I don't think you can see it. If I want to get this work as a pitch to get a sign off, and sign off I think it means to get a contract, can I set up a PVA prior to the session and get the icebreakers in, hoping the leadership will get the need to get IVAs and SGAs? So I'm going to go in a few directions here, Mammy, because I'm not quite 100% clear on the question, but I think there's a few different answers. So if I want someone to see the power of the work, and it's going to be it could potentially be a big gig, I will do IVAs with a select 2 or 3 to 5 people who are on the leadership team as a pre-session, so they get a feel for it. I pay for that myself. If you don't want to pay for it yourself, if you do PVAs with them and walk them through the PVA, it's very powerful. They always want to know what's next. So then make sure you have slides of what an IVA looks like and what the possibility of an IVA is. Does that make sense? 100% of the time.
It does.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to say 100%, and I could be lying, but a high percentage of the time, people want to know more. Like even this group, they're like, well, what else is there? What more? What does this mean? What does that mean? How do you use it in organizations? It piques people's curiosity because they get to see themselves in the model, and we're all so self-absorbed. We want to get them to see themselves as soon as possible, and that's what the PVA does. People, they were so sick of listening to me. I want to know if I'm healthy or if I'm messed up. They just want to get to it, but you can't just get to it without laying the foundation of the model. But the PVA really primes the pump. But I also said if I have a potential client that might pay me the money, it's a potential bigger one. I don't get them all. I plant a lot of seeds, but I'll invest in the IVA and do it. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, it does. So I think my internet looks a bit green now. So I was just hoping, for instance, if the leadership has a session, and I do team building sessions, okay? So in trying to get them into the work, if I'm having a 4-hour session with them, then my question is, can I do the icebreakers? And of course, so prior to the session, I'd have sent them the PDA links. They would have done it. We go through 3 or 4 of the icebreakers, and then I have my slides to introduce them to the IVA, hoping that, like you're saying, it will pique their interest and they would like to know more about themselves and more about the organizations, and hopefully sign up for an actual work.
Yeah, make sure.
So
that would work. Make sure though, on your slide deck, you show them what an IVA looks like,
okay,
and what an SGA looks like. Don't show them all the reports, just the plots. Show them how it fans out, so you've got them in their mind thinking there's more. They often ask more, but show them what more is. Okay, does that make sense to everybody? Because you know, if I'm doing a training and I want them to buy, it is sales, you know, in a way, but it's showing how remarkable the work is. It's worth buying, but show them how powerful the actual surveys are. Just say that, you know, you got a lot of insight from your own personal values assessment. And you know, if they worked in a partner, you learned something about your partner. Now, what the IVA does is it's a roadmap. It creates a roadmap to take you individually and your organization individually from where you are to where you want to be. And it shows what's getting in the way right now. It's because it is so I go into how powerful it is, but I don't show too many reports because they're overwhelming. For example, the one that I don't show, I'm just going to go back to here. Like if I'm showing them IVAs, you can see that, right? You can see my screen, it says IVA. I don't show the BNS.
Okay.
Because it's too much. It's too much. I want to show them how this is what the personal values assessment shows you, but there's so much more behind it. And I don't try to explain how the tool works. Some people will ask and I'll go into it, but I just show them, like, we can see a path to action. And I show them that kind of one, and I show them one with potentially limiting values. I'll show them an SGA with the numbers and how it brings up a clear message. The more people you ask, the more clarity you get in the message. So that's how I do it.
Okay, thanks, Kathleen.
Yeah. So again, depending on the context of the session, but everyone on this call is really, like, this is more, my understanding is you're all focused more organizational, be it the school, the corporation. You folks are really focused that way. In a personal growth workshop, I wouldn't do Dream Team. It's irrelevant, okay?
Yeah.
But I would have them do personal histories to connect them. Okay? And I would have them identify a current challenge. What's a difficult or troubling situation right now? And let's see if it lays up against your values. Okay. So again, it's all very, very contextual, but because you're a group of people, most of the people in this program who train with me, it's really more about getting in the corporate market. And then if I don't know if they're hiring you for this half day or what the context is, Mammy, but I would, I don't want to lose my thought. What was my thought? So if you're doing a pitch, you're doing a pitch no matter what, if they paid you for the half day or not. It's a pitch. Everything's a pitch because you want them to do more. This is long-term work. This isn't a one hit goodbye. So show them the possibility of the tool always. But don't overwhelm. It's a balance. And the only way to find the balance is to screw it up. It's so true. It's to over-inform, over-teach, under-teach. People will walk away, like, everyone learns at a different pace. But if you get too much into the details, you lose them. But if you don't lay the foundation for the model, they have so many questions when they're looking at their PDA. You waste time answering individual questions that could have been answered by overviewing the model. That's why I think it's a good idea for me to share what I did here with you on a call. I'll show you that because it was really, really good. And it confused some people. Some people left completely confused. But out of 400 people, you're going to get that, right? Sure. But my big takeaway, and like again, there's so much more integration required for me. Is there is a whole different energy when people are in there for personal growth as opposed to a corporate team. So that was my learning. They were more raw than a normal group. So anyway, so back to these exercises. Any other questions on those? Did we give them out when you were in the program, or is this new to you?
The exercises?
Yeah.
I do remember the above and below the line.
Okay.
I think so. At least I'm familiar with the both of them.
Okay, good. Okay. I can't remember if we have always done this or not. But icebreakers are key, I think. So Lisa, did you have a question or a comment?
No, I was just going to comment that I was going to forward you a video that was sent to me by my superintendent, and the School Boards Association just sent out a little video that a mandate is coming down that every school is going to have to evaluate the culture in their building. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
That's very interesting.
Yeah. So I'm sure that I'd like to, once we get in the group, maybe put that in there as a question, like how would we align that and be able to market that?
Yeah.
I'll forward you the video.
Okay. That's very exciting. Yeah, super exciting. The other thing I wanted to do on the call, but I'm going to do it when we have more time to have you in breakouts, is how to choose core values. The process that the Barrett Value Center recommends. I honestly have never set core values with an organization. They're already set. It's more around getting more clarity about what the values are and what they mean to them. But I think it's important to have some experience in. We did identify some in the one exercise, but then there's another one that we can do to help you ground that a little bit deeper. But I want to break you into groups of 3 to work through another case study. So what is it that I can help you with today that would get you through the next couple of weeks, or I think whenever our next call is it next week? I can't remember. But what is it that I could help you with today?
Yes, it is.
Alex, the proposal? What's that?
Yes, it is next week.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think a lot of my questions are coming back to the proposal and kind of structure, for trying to use this work.
Okay. So do we want to spend some time talking about this as a group?
Yes, because the proposals and the business pages really to get the work done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
agreed.
So
is your question around how to price it, Alex, or how to what are the questions?
I think I know for me, I got some good clarity last time about pricing. I think maybe more how to structure and what to include in the proposal, because it is so vast. And so that's where, the HR manager I'm submitting a proposal to really doesn't know anything about this work. So trying to explain, why it's valuable and how without overwhelming, but also getting it across. I think that's where I'm feeling stuck on what's best.
Okay. And do you think you're going to be able to are you sending them information and hoping to have a conversation, or are you having a conversation and then sending them information? Which way is it going?
Sending information, hoping to have a conversation. Now I am currently, at least with this company, I'm already in the middle of a training program for them. So, so they do know me. But at least that's how I was advised by the person who introduced me to the HR manager, was to send them a proposal explaining what I want to talk to them about.
Okay. I find for me that if I can get them to experience it first, and then I can hear what they have to say, and then I frame the proposal up based on what they say. You're already in midstream with this client. So I would say to the HR person, would you be willing to spend 90 minutes with me so I can walk you through your own personal values assessment and show you the application for the organization? Because they already know you. The more I can do it that way, the better. And then I think there is a proposal outline on the, I'm just making a note to make sure. If it's not there, we'll send it to you. A proposal outline.
The resource center?
Yeah.
Do we have access to
You
that?
should, yeah.
Yes, Barrett Center has sent us access links.
No, to ours, the
And
Massively Human one. You should be on that.
I don't think we're on that yet. I think Carson said he didn't want to overwhelm us because.
Okay, I'll have him. Okay, I'm gonna have him send you that. Then it'll make more sense, Alex.
Okay. Great.
I remember that now because he did the BBC introduction last time. That's right. So our resource center, I'll have him get a link to you, and you put your profile on there and fish around there. And there's a sample proposal that I use.
Okay.
And I made it generic for the Barrett work because I have my other tools that I plug into it, but it's a framework for you that you can plug into. Okay. And
Awesome.
he's flying right now, but I'll get him to do that at some point today or tomorrow morning so you can take a look.
Awesome.
Yeah. And really, I want to know with the client, I want to know what is it, if we were to work together for a year, what would be different? What would be successful? What would you be seeing, feeling, experiencing in a year? And then I can see if I can do it, but then I can write it up for them. Every proposal, you're going to hear me say this 10,000 times, every single one is different, but I do have some consistent framework. And you'll see in the one that's on the resource center that that's basically a framework of what I use, but then I plug in sort of customized pieces and sound bites. Like I might I might look on their website and see what are their values words, and I try to integrate it in the copy so it feels like it's theirs. But every single one is different. And I say to them, how much information would you like from me? Would a one-page outline work for you for now? And you can see what interests you, and then we can go deeper. What I've done in the past is given this friggin' textbook that I've written and spent 10 hours writing, and they don't read it because it's too much.
Right.
Ask how much you want, when can I expect to hear from you, and then would you be willing to get on a call with me? I don't know if you can talk to them in person, but would you be willing to get on a call with me, and I'll take you through a Zoom experience of your own personal values assessment. If you can get them in the work, you can sell the work.
I have to sign off, folks. Okay. I will see you next week. You did sounds like you did a great job there from all the feedback I saw on Facebook.
Yeah, it was good. It was fun.
It was fun.
Yeah, it was
awesome.
Fun.
All right. Have a good day, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Lisa.
Bye, Lisa.
Nope, I'm leaving.
Oh, there she goes. So are you proposing for more work, or are you proposing what to do next? You already have the work? Give me a little more context for this one.
Yeah, so with this current client, it's so basically they're one of the first companies I've actually done a training program for. So I offered to do, which was a big win for me, but it started back in June, and I offered to do it at a very discounted price because I'm piloting this program of training for their executive assistants. And so it's a 5-month, once a month training program for their EAs, heavily based around success principles. It was 1 half day in person and then follow-up webinar calls. And so then the woman who she's been a client of mine, and she introduced me to her boss in HR. And so he hired me to do this training for them. And then she went back to him and asked if I could also do group coaching for her and her 2 team members, which he just approved. So I'm doing that with them now starting this month. But so I guess where I had talked to her and said, hey, I have this, I just got certified. I have this small group assessment that I can offer at a very discounted rate because it's part of my certification program. And I'd love to first offer it to you because you all have been working with me. But I am a little hesitant, I guess, of not wanting to also be asking too much, because they did just approve these 2 programs that I'm doing. And the CTT work is definitely on a different scale, because I'm, versus training with their executive assistants. And so she recommended that I reach out to him and with a proposal on explaining the SGA and how it could benefit them, and letting them know, I wanted to offer this to you first with this timely opportunity, and then see if he, would take a call with me about it. So that's where I'm at.
Okay. I bet you get it, because they've already hired you. Buyers buy. Like they've already added more of you. So I would how would I frame it up? Let me think. Does anyone have any suggestions for her? You can interrupt me if you want to, but in my mind, I'm trying to think of what I would do.
I listened to a webinar about getting corporate clients, and I think where you started from is basically what is recommended. I haven't tried it, but what I realized when I tried to play it up with a couple of prospective clients is that it does work. So when you instead of sending in a written proposal first, you would ask to speak with the HR manager and listen to their pain points. So you, for instance, would be talking about what their current values are. How's that playing out? How are employees plugging in? Where are the biggest concerns as a business, and how that is impacting on the delivery of.
Oh, we lost her.
Oh, that was so good.
We keep losing her on the pipe.
Yeah. Once you listen to the concerns, it makes it easier for you to target and contextualize the proposal that you'll give to them. And I think that for me, the PVA really works, because once we did it, it was like, okay, this is exactly what I want to do. And it always piques the interest. So you're just getting the HR manager to imagine knowing everybody's values as a team and the organization, and how the expected outcomes from the employees would be like, and how they can pick up a journey. And I'm sure that's where you get like a 3-year process with one company, because they would want to cover the whole path. So speaking with the individual first, getting them to speak to you about where their pain points are, and getting them to do the PV would be how I would take that.
Yeah, Alex, you're so polished in a conversation. If you can get in front of them, you can nail it, and they're already buying you.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that, Kathleen. If I can ask, the one thing she said that, and I didn't, I don't know what to think about this, because I don't really know much about it, but she said their team does already do surveys every year or every 6 months for their employees, and ask for feedback, on where are they doing well, where could they improve. And so she said, I'm just guessing here, but I wonder if you did meet with Paul, is his name, if he would say, well, how is this different from what we already do? Like, we already do this. So that's why she said, I don't want to talk to him about it. I think you should go straight to him, because you can explain it a lot better than I can.
Okay.
But she said, I'd be prepared for that he may say, well, we already do this internally. Why would we pay someone from the outside to do more evaluations for us? And that's where I was just thinking through, okay, how do you really communicate this clearly about, in a proposal, is how I was thinking at the time. But
I would say, I would ask him, how long did the surveys take that you're currently doing? How long does it take? And have you noticed a difference in the data? I would want to connect him to engagement and culture. He must know it. We can make the assumption that he's HR.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And how is this unique and different? Well, this is unique and different because if people are able to bring their whole selves to work, if people can live their values at work, there's a lot of evidence now that supports how building a consciously designed values-driven culture can really improve your bottom line and engagement scores. So this is a new technology, and it's a proven technology. Very, very, I'm just brainstorming here. Like it's the thing that's for me is so powerful is how this is such a new market in North America, but it is so tried and true around the world. Like there's a lot of evidence with this kind of work. I would look at I would talk about entropy. I would explain what entropy is and the inverse relationship it has to engagement. As engagement goes up, entropy goes down. How do we get engagement? Well, if people can bring their whole selves to work. This survey, what I'm asking of you is to have 20 people complete this survey, and it will take them, maximum 10 minutes. Some people might take 15, some people will take 5, but an average of 10 minutes. And it can produce data for you that you can use to measure and manage your culture. I mean, the small group assessment is as powerful as the CVA. And I wouldn't discount your value in it. I mean, I would say I'm going to do this for you as part of my certification if you want to do it free or for $1,000 or whatever it is you decide. But show the value of the survey. And it's really about the time it takes to complete the survey that really mattered to, the client, the case study I show you. They used to do those big employee engagement surveys that cost a lot of money and take the employees about 45 minutes to fill out. And the CVA produced the same result as that employee engagement survey. So I would want to know how much time it takes and what kind of information they're getting, if he's willing to share it with you. And just say, if this isn't meaningful if you find it that it's not useful, you don't have to pay me. I do that all the time. I say, just don't pay me. Money back guarantee. Because you've already got the survey. What's that? What's that?
What's that, Mandy?
Yes, so I was just, I'm just playing HR manager here because that's been my job for the past decade. Perfect. Okay, so a few facts, Alex, that you can bank on. The survey, the 6-monthly survey they're referring to is what people call organizational effectiveness survey. So it's not even the engagement survey. It could be different. Then we have the engagement survey, and Kathleen, acting as an employee, an HR person who sees the reports from the highest level to the lowest, having facilitated line managers to work on engagement survey reports around action plans and everything. It's not to the value survey. The survey is so powerful that I would not even sell it to the HR person is that I'll get you the same data. No, it is more than that. You get so much insight from this that you will never get from, and I just work in this. Yes, a background of having worked very closely in these environments. In multinational, so I get on global calls where we are talking, and whether you're in Africa or you're in Europe or you are in America or in Asia, the conversation around engagement is the same. It is dipping globally, and it's because corporations are still banking their hopes on the fact that employees will come to work and be professionals when they are not people, okay? There's a new theory that I'm studying about the fact that we have a person and a professional integration. So we have moved away from work-life balance to work-life integration, where I can be at work and be myself, give you the results you want. And I mean, it's all about this mobility thing. It's a whole concept that's coming up. And Alex, you can approach this HR manager from a background of, you know what, I am expecting that you have a lot of data that you're working with, but I can promise you, and like Kathleen is saying, because this one is for free, you can say, sure money back from those 20 surveys that we'll get. That will be so valuable that you will be able to use it directly in your business, and I can assure you that it will have an impact in how you run your teams going forward. Because I know OEs, I know engagement surveys, and I've now been exposed to this, and I can tell you this is totally powerful, and I know the difference to organizations.
I'm so glad you spoke up to that, because
Yeah.
it's validating from the perspective of the person. You were in the seat of the person we try to sell to.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does provide such a multi-dimensional view of the organization, the team, or whatever that can't be accessed through other kinds of surveys, essentially is what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, because you have the free one, you can I put it on the line anyway. I just say, if you're not happy, don't pay me. I always say you have to pay my expenses if I go somewhere, but I said, if you're not happy, don't pay. And it kind of dissipates the fear. It's strange because it's not even their money. It's very strange. I like it and I don't like it, but it's just interesting. So you have a little bit to go on there. Essentially, I think that the headline here is, Alex, to have a conversation, to get in a conversation so you can show what's different and unique. And then when you hear more about the pain points, you can build a formal proposal around that. But see if you can get in the room. I bet you can, because you're already in the room. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I guess just my last quick question would be, would you have a recommendation of what to charge? In that offering this kind of discount because it's, a free survey.
I would say this is my daily fee. Like, my daily fee is $6,500 a day. The survey is, the SGA is $1,000. I would say I do now add about a 20% admin fee, because the time it takes, the work we put into setting those up, putting them in envelopes and all that kind of thing. So, the survey is a $1,500 value. They get IVAs. Actually, it's like $1,800. It's probably, you could say this is you would sell it for about $2,500, I think, plus your time. So you can say this is the value. And what I'll do this for you for this price in exchange for recommendation, feedback, looking at a deeper dive, your time that it takes to do it, whatever it is, go in wanting something back, not in it's really reciprocal. What's in it for you? Be honest. What's in it for me is it's part of my certification, and I want a recommendation. I did that. My small group assessment was with the company that I shared the big thing. That's the company I did my free SGA with, and I haven't stopped working with them, and I had the kind of relationship you have. I was already doing work with them, so it was easy to have them then go bigger. Just show that you're willing to do it, but you want something in return. Do you have any thoughts on that, Tiz?
No, I think that's perfect, and I'm really benefiting from the conversation.
Oh, good.
Yeah, that 20% admin thing is kind of new. I mean, it's so logical, and yet prior to this updated training or update for me, wasn't really on the radar. It was kind of like buried in there and stuck in the drive. No, I like this.
We just started doing that because I would say about a year ago, maybe, because the time I now pay Carson to do this work. So, like, for example, the client we did in May with 77 leaders, that's pulling 77 reports, managing the process of making sure everyone's done the report, printing them all, putting them in an envelope, putting a little sticker name on it. There's so much in it, and we, I don't like. I charge minimum $40 easily. I bill per person for a workbook, and it might cost me $6 to print, but I consumed my time in organizing all those materials, putting them together, and that's a factor. Like the gig in Chicago that I've told you about now, Jason doesn't think he's going to do IVA, so I don't know if there's any point in people coming to look at that one. But he says, $60 an IVA, and he knows they're $40. But I said, we charge $60, Jason, because the time to manage 145 people doing their surveys and another 45 on the second session, like, our time is valuable. But he knows the bottom line because he's certified. He wasn't asking for any kind of a deal. I'm like, you're welcome to do them all and have your assistant put it in, but I bet you don't have the time. So he's rethinking it again because he's here at BTS. We had that conversation. But I value our time too much. I value Carson's time, value your own time. And you can give whatever discount you want, Alex. Like, but ask for something in return. So you're good. You're giving high quality. You are giving great quality with a small group assessment. Everyone gets an IVA. This is really a great offering for your client. Just don't forget that.
Thank you.
Is there anything else on this conversation?
I'm good.
I texted Carson, asked him to unlock the resource center. He really wants to show you around it, so he'll do that on the next call. He'll unlock it. He says, I don't want to share it without showing, but I will if you want me to. So you can navigate it, and then he wants to walk you through it. So he'll do that. Okay.
If he'd rather not show us the whole thing, would it be easier to just email us the sample proposal in advance, and then
I can ask for, yeah, I can buy. I don't have this stuff on my computer anymore, so I'll ask him. I think what he would prefer is if you look at the resource center, just don't ask him any questions. We'll explain it on the call. Just don't email him 25 questions.
Sure.
If you find your way through, and then he'll explain it. You can ask questions after. I think that's what he's trying to avoid by wanting to show you it on a call. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. So I'll figure that out after we hang up, and we'll get you either the proposal or access to that center. I think, Tiz, you're already on that center. You've had access, don't you? You're there, aren't you? You should have. You don't even.
I'm sitting here going, okay, well, is she talking about the Facebook page or?
No, we have a resource center on our site.
So that's really funny. I kind of feel like it fell through the cracks for me.
Well, we didn't have it when you were a trainer, but it would have been announced in an email to you.
And I wonder if I.
Yeah. Anyway, it's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. You're gonna have access to it. We just only give it to what we've tried to do is we've looked at all the things that people want from the Barrett Value Center, and we've funneled it into ours to make it easy for you to find. That's what we've done.
It's funny, and I thought that was on the CTT thing.
Anyway, that's what if you'll do. We'll hook you up with it, but just hold off till next week for questions for Carson. Deal?
Sounds good. Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Yes.
So here's some action steps. I'm going to send out some options for a solid 3-hour session. I'm going to go over core values, choosing core values, and I'll walk through what I did at BTS, pieces of what I did at BTS, not the whole thing, but the piece about the values, so I can show you how I did it in a larger group. And any questions, or if you have anything you want to unpack, we'll get the content done at the call first, more like a teaching experience. And we have our call next week, which will be going through the directory and whatever's up. Does that sound like a good deal?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So so that's what we will do. That's my action steps. Does anyone have anything else? Any questions or anything before?
Did you mention, Kathleen, sending the options for the additional training day?
Yeah. I'm gonna work that out with Carson. So in the next couple of days, we'll probably send something out early next week to say what days will work.
Okay.
And we'll make it work. Like, it's possible to make it work because the time zone really works well with Ghana. Like, it's their afternoon, it's our morning. It seems to work well. So I think we can land on a day.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you all so much for the help. I really appreciate that personalized help.
Great. Well, everybody have a good day, good afternoon, good evening, whatever it is there, and we will see you all next week, and Carson will walk you through the resource center, and Tiz, you will be enlightened.
Yay!
Okay, cool. Talk to you later, guys.
Thank
you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.